It's part 4 of the Sarpedon campaign in Total War Troy Abridged. In the previous part I went a bit wild going out to capture a whole bunch of islands, and those island wars led to an unexpected war on Crete. Had to fight it in a very last minute sort of way, and it was kind of back and forth, but we've now got to the point when the enemy forces are trapped in their town. Didn't really want to fight them, but if I don't they'll just make a new army, so we have to take this decisive engagement. I start off by sending out the chariots to do some harassment. With only 9 archers, they're not going to do all that much, but we can snipe away at some of the enemy's smaller units, and now and again these arrows hit things and we're like killing the odd guy on the very end of the unit. It has a classic Total War possible feature, possible glitch, where a lot of the targeting of ranged units goes towards the corners of blocks of troops, which makes them less effective. Anyway, here's a more effective way of using chariots. We end up just running into these spearmen that routes them, and there we go. That's 1 unit out of the game before the battle starts. And as the enemy come towards me, I'm eager to charge forwards and engage, because they had a bunch of slingers and archers. We have nothing that can match their range, so I wanted to get things going as soon as possible to avoid us being skirmished to death. We've got a bunch of jabs though, and they're doing some good work early on, jabbing into the flank of stuff, but once the 2 sides are engaged, all of the lines of sight will go away and we'll have to be more careful. Now really I want my chariots to hit the back of the enemy as the fight starts, but annoyingly their commander used an ability that caused my chariots to go into rampage mode or something, meaning they just wanted to attack him and wouldn't accept any orders. So the chariots aren't around to hit these juicy targets like these slingers and archers. They would be prime targets for a rear attack from a chariot charge. Here are my jabs throwing into the melee and probably killing both sides. And in some parts of the melee we've already been defeated, but the same thing is happening to the enemy. You can see that pretty much everything's routing all over the place real fast, another of these fast-paced battles. Over here on our left it's gone well because I fought the enemy from 2 sides, and those units will now be free to come in and shore up our shattering centre, and the jabs are now throwing over the fight instead and killing those archers. We've managed to get into range of them, so that's handy. At last the chariots break out of their rampage mode. We somehow only lost 1 chariot to their general, so now it's the time to shine. We need to run in and start killing all of the ranged stuff, and preferably make contact with things in melee from behind to rout them as well. And we do start to see things pulling in our favour now. We clear out some of the slingers, and as it happened we also won a duel between the 2 commanders, so even without the chariots things were starting to go well in the main fight. This tree is confounding my guy as we try to chase him off. But basically, that's the end of the enemy army. Very soon after this, the rest of the stuff chain routes, and we are going to want to chase them off the field and grab as many kills as possible. Since this won't be the end of this fight, we'll have to attack their town afterwards. Here's the eventual result we get. They're basically dead, so there we go. The war in Crete is going to go our way. We even managed to avoid losing any units, just barely. So with them out of the picture, we'll just auto-resolve them in the next turn. But there was also something else that caught my eye in the next turn. Last time I mentioned that spies appeared to be very overpowered, and here was some more evidence. Our main force besieging this capital province up here, capital region, is suddenly looking very dead. As you can see, they were at full strength. And there was also a notification saying that a spy has done the poisoning thing against us. Only a level 2 spy as well, so even the weaker spies can really wreck an army in a single turn of actions. I auto-resolved the enemy anyway because they were 75% dead due to siege attrition. We did lose a couple of units though, 4 units in total. A little bit nasty, and I'm sure without that spy doing that, we would have had such a balance bar advantage we would have just taken the city for free. Very annoying confirmation that spying is the new meta. Just need to use poisoning and murmurs of sedition, their 2 abilities that cause troops to disappear, and really change some results. Now we also have to attack the last settlement belonging to this faction I randomly declared war on for no reason out here. I've got my 2nd army doing that. It's not powerful enough to just storm in, especially because there is a small garrison guarding the place. Also though, here's my spy. I was already starting to get onto the bandwagon here, thinking we need to get some spies out there to try and get some of these mass kills for ourselves. It might be a bit too overpowered to really use it, but I was going to try and use it a little bit just to experiment. There's the murmurs of sedition thing. This kills garrison units, whereas the poison ability kills regular units. In this case, for some reason I can't poison the army that's in there, but I can do Murmurs of Sedition against the town. It cancels it when they land, but if you just tell them to do it again, it does go through, the game trying to trick me into thinking I couldn't do it there. Now I need to restart the siege to check the health on those garrison units. You can't do it outside of the siege by the looks of things. And indeed, they're a bit more dead than they were before. It wasn't the devastating damage I was hoping for, but that was only our first sedition murmuring. So yes, that probably helps in some way. I'm sure if you level up the spies to specialise in that, that's just going to be a game-ending weapon for us. So I might try and do that, if I can be bothered anyway. We go ahead and auto-resolve the survivors from the battle earlier, losing some stuff along the way, but that doesn't really matter, because things are over here. The war on Crete is won, and this faction is dead. With them gone, we're not going to completely ignore Crete, because as mentioned in the past, taking Crete is one of our missions. I think it's one of the epic missions that we have to do as well. So we're going to want to kill these guys over here at some point. Sparta are some of the guys over there, and we're probably going to end up at war with Sparta through the whole Trojan War thing. But for now, we're going to chill out on Crete. I'm going to pull back, make some better recruitment buildings, and try to improve my army before we get into anything else there. The war for the islands comes to an anticlimactic end, because we can finish off this last settlement by bringing Sarpedon over as well. They didn't sally out or anything, so had the time, moved on in and killed them. That's going to be the end of them, and the end of their entire faction. This unites one of the island provinces as well, which was quite nice. And with that, my quest off to the west seems to be over. I've gone really far away from where I wanted to go, but now there's no obvious additional target to go after. We can start thinking about going back from here. As you might remember, the people I need to invade are right next to where we started. Interestingly though, I noted we're still at war with someone, and they're kind of on the way, so I started thinking maybe we can do this as well. I think I ended up at war with that faction through an alliance or something, so I thought we'll go back towards the mainland, but stopping off there at that faction to conclude the war, then go back around towards our home territory and get into the business I've been planning for the last several parts but not actually doing, which has covered the last like 50 turns in the game. Very distracted, suffice to say. However, before that happens, we'll see things start to get a little bit spicy. I'm able to first here join a war down on Crete. I joined this war in order to get some money off Sparta first and foremost, but also because I noticed Sparta were about to win their war. So I thought I'll join their war here on Crete at the last second to see if I can get a tiny bit more territory for myself before the entire island is effectively just divided up between the two superpowers. Annoyingly, I can't take that territory in front of me because my army is not very good and it's a bit defended. So I decided to just wait outside and see what would happen. We'll come back to that in a second. I've also now got my secondary army from the islands sailing south. They're going to be needed on Crete soon, because I sense we're probably going to have to just declare war on Sparta in the near future to continue the campaign most efficiently. So we're going to build up as much stuff as we can, and then try to sweep down the island. It'll be a few turns before we're in position for that though. And now we can also do this little move. We can move around the town I wanted to take, and take this place that the Spartans appear to have recently raised. So in a roundabout way, the Spartans have given me this territory by raising it from that other faction. Although colonizing it does make my army kind of weak, there's a risk the enemy might move out and beat me. Luckily they don't. Other stuff happens though, and this is where the spice that I mentioned really starts to kick in. First we have a war declaration by one of the factions that will also be on Sarpedon's way back home. Just kind of came out of the blue, not really sure what this is about. It might be because we've crossed a prestige level thing where it says established strategic threat. There's some hidden bar in the background determining how strong you are and forcing the AI to declare war on you once you get to a certain level of strength. This also seems to apply to the faction I was planning to eventually attack, the guys who were next to me, so they've declared war on me. And that's really an issue because of course they can invade my undefended core territory if they want. Here's another war. Looks like this is a war between just some Greeks and Trojans, but I need to join it to maintain our steadfast Trojan alliance. So we're at war with someone on the Greek mainland, and now we're at war with someone else on the Greek mainland, and it's none other than Achilles. He is now my antagonist, whatever that means. In the victory objectives you have to defeat your antagonist faction in order to win the campaign, or one of the things you have to do to win the campaign. So we need to win against Achilles. Looks like his faction's more powerful than us. And that's saying something because our faction's getting pretty powerful at this stage. So he probably has a bunch of stuff in the fog of war that we can't see. The good news is that he's kind of far away. Achilles is like in the north of Greece. So it will take him a very long time to actually do anything against us. Here I take a look for his territory. We can only see a little bit of it on the coast up here. So presumably there's a load more stuff inland that he also has. That's going to be an issue. I'm guessing as the antagonist faction, he's going to drop whatever he's doing and just start spamming armies down towards us. So that's probably going to start happening in a few turns and we'll just have to deal with it. On Crete, Sparta took out the remnants of the last independent Cretan faction. So now we're going to sail back and try to concentrate at the east end of the island, ready for some sort of campaign there. Next, we need to try and worm our way out of the dangerous strategic situation we're in. Luckily, one of those factions on the way home was very willing to exit the war and actually join all of the other wars on my side. So one guy's been flipped, that's good. We're not allowed to talk to Achilles' faction, unfortunately, so can't do anything about him. I was able to grab another peace treaty with the first set of guys I was going to kill on the way home, just to get them out of the way. Most importantly though, we can get peace with the guys who are actually positioned to attack us, although it's going to cost us a whole bunch of resources, as you can see here. Didn't really like this, but it's going to take me a really long time to actually get back there with troops. So I thought we probably need to do this. It's going to be cheaper than actually making new armies to stop them in the long run. So with that, we're now not at war at all on the Anatolian mainland. All of the 3 wars we did have gone away. So now we're just at war with 2 factions on the Greek mainland. There's an army in the middle of the islands that would have attacked us if we didn't get those deals, so that's nice. I thought that since I'd just bought that peace deal, I probably shouldn't go back and just attack them with Sarpedon, so instead I decided to keep him in the west, ready to look out against our new antagonists and such. Here's another war that we join into for our allies. Looks like it's against one of the Horde factions, who are just going around blowing everything up. Up north, probably not going to participate too much in that war since it's far away. Here was another faraway war I was technically involved in, so I could get this really good peace treaty since it looks like the our Trojan allies are about to destroy them. So they pay out big time to stop us from coming to kill them, which we weren't going to do. Free money, basically. Now I was checking out my antagonist and wondering, should I send Sarpedon against them? The issue is that he'll probably just die. They probably have tons of stuff up there. And I also thought it's going to take them a long time to do anything against us. And the other issue is we're going to be at war with Sparta soon, because I'm setting up to do it on Crete for sure. And it would be nice to actually attack Sparta itself with Sarpedon at the same time in order to focus them down and destroy their faction sooner. So I decided to grab the Poseidon Prayer and sail over to Sparta with Sarpedon. Meanwhile, we're setting up just outside Knossos here with a whole bunch of stuff, not quite 2 full armies, and they're not the best quality, but that's what we can afford. We've got some stuff there ready for war. The war happens a few turns earlier than I wanted though, because some random Greek faction declares war on us and calls in half of Greece. We call in half of Troy, and suddenly the Trojan War's effectively started. Now, both sides of the Aegean are just at war all over the place. We're at war with billions of regions, as we can see here, and plenty that we can't see in the fog of war as well. The massive issue is that if they decide to sail out and conquer our islands, there's virtually nothing we can do to stop them. We just don't have the troops to do it, especially with so much stuff down on Crete at the moment. I was worried about Sarpedon being at sea because I figured if I sail on to Sparta, the enemy might just come at us with multiple stacks in the fog of war, since all these allies that probably weren't doing very much are now ready to strike. So I thought I'll land as soon as possible and just take a territory to use as a base and work from there. If I need to, perhaps just take a walled settlement and defend forever. This means our troops down on Crete are going to have to fight all of our new war with Sparta. So here we go. At Knossos things aren't too bad, because even though that balance bar is abysmal, their army defending it is split between 2 generals and 1 general's outside. We can double team him to force him to retreat right there and then just pursue to finish him off. Although this doesn't change things massively because they had a full stack garrison. So we're taking the enemy's unit count down from 30 something to the high 20s, but they still have the area heavily defended. For some reason I thought the game had crashed as it tried to load this auto-resolve animation. It would be nice if you could just turn them off entirely rather than skipping them, so you can skip the loading as well. So now we've got our two armies sitting here at Knossos. The balance bar's not good, so it's a situation where we need to siege them out. We'll just leave them there for this turn. Another war comes about during the end turn sequence. Another small faction up north will just join the war and maybe get them to pay us to leave later or something. Here's a war closer to home though. Some of the islands we haven't declared war on yet suddenly declare war on us. So yes, our islands are in big trouble. They're undefended and there are just enemy factions all over the place now. We're not going to make too much effort to defend them. They're going to act as an aggro beacon effectively. They can waste time, the enemy that is, taking the islands if they want. We're just going to focus on taking key territories on the big islands and the mainland. Here at Trojan, the Mycenaeans have very little to stop us just storming in. It does have Troy in the name, so it makes sense that it should be ours. So we'll just set up shop here and see what happens really. There was no plan with this Sarpedon invasion other than to take the enemy by surprise, maybe do some damage and actually get us into a decent position. Down at Knossos, I do have a plan though. I was looking at this siege, seeing it's going to take at least 3 or 4 turns to finish things off here. And I thought let's try and do this in a more strategic way, that is to abandon the siege at first, so that we can just walk past them. We're going to do this Sun Tzu style. Why attack that heavily fortified position? We could just leave and attack all of their not heavily fortified positions, which will also be useful to us. To leave with this second army, I have to start a new siege and then retreat to get out of their zone of control. So one army, as you saw, went south to go towards that town. With the other army, I was worried that their small army might move out to attack my nearby town. So I figured I'll just hide roughly on the route and do an ambush, because there was actually a forest that gives us a decent chance of the ambush working. This plan has a fatal flaw. It doesn't defend against the enemy moving south to attack the troops that I just walked off with, and that's what they do. And carelessly, I was too close to the enemy town. I was so desperate to get there in one turn. I didn't think about the fact that if I was standing too near the town reinforces the enemy army as they attack me. I retreat from this first fight, but then the same fight is effectively forced upon us since we just retreat to another position in range of the town. So that didn't go very well. My plan to bamboozle the enemy has turned into me fighting with only half of my troops. Not ideal, but we have no choice here, we have to fight this battle. Again, I start off with some chariot skirmishing. This time we've got 3 units of chariots to use, although we didn't achieve very much. I'm shooting here at these armoured, shielded guys, and with very few arrows and with them having a bunch of health and defense stats, doesn't really do anything. Once their army gets close, we do again want to charge as soon as possible. Since we are outranged, need to try and force some melees. And this time there's no rampage ability shenanigans going on, so we can pull the chariots in to be behind the enemy army as the fight starts. As for the fighting, not really the best. The enemy have a few good units coming out of their garrison that will kill our mostly bad units, but we also have a few anti-armor units that we can use against them, like our two-handed axemen there, so we should be doing more damage than the value of our units would suggest. Which is also the name of the game for chariots, of course, as we begin to rampage through their skirmishers. And there's even more value there, because even though we're not always killing them, we're stopping them from shooting into the fights, because they're constantly going to be skirmishing away from us now. They're just not going to use their ammo, whereas our javelineers can. So that will help turn the fight in our favour. I've also got my hero through to fight with the enemy's hero, and with that we just sort of cross our fingers and hope we win somehow. That will give us a morale advantage. Here's a sight for sore eyes, a fight that we won. Our heavy axemen were able to take down a unit of their spears, so that's good news. A matchup that should be a win for us, and finally it was. Here's another sort of okay matchup, our anti-armor axemen fighting with these armored guys. Their stats will be higher, but we're going to be doing some damage through their armor in some unspecified way, so it will go better than it looks. I've got some javs throwing in there as well. But the main fight here is not ideal. Getting to the point when all of our stuff is routed. We've routed like half of the enemy stuff as well. And with our jabs throwing in, I think we're still getting a pretty good trade. The only issue is there's an enemy hero in the middle of our trash, and of course our jabs and the trash will have no chance against him, so gradually he's just going to kill all of us. As for the other hero battle, well, we eventually lost. Our guy routs at this stage, so that's going to demoralize us and mean we don't demoralize them, which is the more important part. Some of our chariots are dead, but we're still doing the micro. It took quite a lot of micro here because these slinger units kept not routing. So I need to keep chasing them, because if I try to move away, they'll sling at me and that will do bad things. And of course, I do want to actually kill them before they use up their ammo killing my other men. The micro isn't there though. Some of our chariots are getting bogged down. They need to keep moving and be given new orders to be most effective. Looks like we're getting an axe rear attack on those shielded clubmen there. That should be somewhat effective. But yes, the main fight's starting to come to an end as everything routes away. There was this one unit of club warriors who didn't look very good with no shield, who were somehow able to take down 3 of my units fighting at the same time. This is another case of a unit's visual appearance not relating to its stats very much. That's a very good unit that just kind of looks like it's a trash unit because they don't have any equipment, just a stick and no shield. We can't stop them though. And the main fight, as I said, has all just broken up. Really, it's just our jabs left and they're running low on ammo. This was the final straw in the battle. I tried to charge down those club warriors with our most healthy chariot unit, but they didn't charge for whatever reason. We just sort of walked into them and then stopped. Then of course the clubmen start clubbing us and things start to go badly. We get a rout, and really it's over at this stage. We've still got some presence on the balance bar because our javelineers running about the edge of the maps and our remaining chariots are keeping us in there. But we, in a practical sense, don't have a way to defeat things like their shielded spearmen, this unit here, which can just kill everything we send at them. And also the enemy still have a hero on the field who can defeat our units in melee if he wants to. Our last healthy unit, the heavy axeman, just gets overwhelmed by what the enemy have left in the centre, and then everything that's left just runs off because it causes a chain rout from army losses. The battle ends in a valiant defeat. Not what we wanted to see, but it could have been worse. We took several enemy units with us, so they're going to be in a weakened position. Perhaps our remaining army can follow up and do something with this. But suffice to say, losing about half of our troops built up before the war in the first couple of turns doesn't bode all that well, especially because just after this battle we do see the Spartans poking out of the fog of war with another half stack of troops there, so numbers aren't exactly on our side after this either. I think we'll leave things here for this part. We've just lost half our troops on Crete, and Sarpedon with the main force is stuck fighting all of Greece at the same time for all intents and purposes. Not an ideal strategic situation. Where will we go from here? Well, tune into part 5 to find out.